Saw dudes, I'm challenging myself to bring all the frames I made builds for into level cap. While it's not always pretty, I like sharing my gameplay with you all. It gives me an incentive to improve and lays groundwork for my future builds. Today I ran Harrow through the Void Cascade Gauntlet and it was pretty alright. He's heavily reliant on the weapons that he brings to the table, so I chose guns that take advantage of crit. Let's get started. The Harrow Prime build is just about the same from my last video on him. I switched out the Exilus mod and Arcanes to make the build easier to run in an endurance setting and reduce redundant aspects in the loadout. Corrosive Projection is the aura I use because of the polarity, but I would recommend using something else like Growing Power, Steel Charge, or even Holster Amp. Because I used Unairu as my focus school, I chose to use Power Drift for the extra ability strength. Rolling Guard is needed for the extra iframes it provides, and it works well with Covenant. Tribunal is required for team play, since it makes competing for kills less of a problem. Prime Flow ups energy reserves, and Blind Rage increases strength drastically, but hits our efficiency hard. Given that his durable prints energy, this is not an issue. The Arcanes are entirely up to preference. I use Multi Augmented and Efficiency because they mesh with Harrow's kit well and can perform in ability rotations. However, if you want more damage, which is what I should have done, consider using Arcane Precision or Arcane Rage. As for the Archon Shards, I use 2 Amber Casting Shards, 2 Azure Energy Shards, and 1 Crimson Ability Duration Shard. Of course, you can swap out the Azure Shards for Corrosive Strip Emerald Shards, but I didn't think that was necessary. In the primary slot, I used Latron Incarnon. This was a weapon I was testing out, so the modding isn't quite there yet. The Incarnon perks I used were Riddle Target, Extended Volley, and Flensing Spikes. The gun was used to fully strip armor off of targets and functioned as ad clear for most of the run. While it was pretty nice, I noticed that it started falling off after about level 4000. It also experienced some problems against Eximus units, as you will see down the line. I used Laetum in the secondary slot. It's a hard pattern to break, but this gun puts out so much damage it's hard to put down. I use Marksman's Hand, Lethal Rearmament, Kaput Mortem, and Overwhelming Attrition as my evolutions. This is a crit build naturally. Harrow's Covenant definitely helps this thing melt a bit more, but it's not required. Using the non-crit variant would just not work with this current loadout. For the melee, I decided to test out Big Bonk, Fragor Prime. This will make the fellow Titan mains from Destiny 2 proud. This wasn't used a lot during the run because Harrow isn't well suited for melee combat above level 500. However, the couple times that I did use it were extremely satisfying. The hammer hits hard and scales quite well. It does need enemies to be defense stripped to get the most out of it past level 5000. And here is the Panzer build. It's the standard for most people. The main highlight of the build is Tenacious Bond, which grants us a 1.2 times crit multiplier. Considering Covenant basically guarantees crits, and even red crits, this is a nice bonus to have. The focus school I used was Unairu for the armor strip and knockdown immunity. Harrow offers great weapon damage buffs and team buffs, so none of the other schools were needed. The only other option could have been Madurai, which has sling strength, but again, it's not required. Armor and shield strip become the most important factor, given Harrow's innate ability to heavily buff crit and fire rate. For the amp, I used a 147 setup or a Raplac Prism, Fad Scaffold, and Sturgis Brace. This was recommended to me for general use and Endurance Void Cascade. Raplac offers great headshot damage, and Fad can easily revive from a down state. For the Operator Arcanes, I used Magus Cloud, Magus Lockdown, Eternal Eradicate, and Eternal Onslaught. Magus Cloud helps purge Exilizers faster by void dashing, and Magus Lockdown assists in crowd control when shit hits the fan. Eternal Eradicate grants a 60% damage bonus, and Onslaught increases our crit chance by 180% upon expending all Operator energy. That's everything that I used for the run, so what are my thoughts on it? I love Harrow's kit, but he is a selfish support frame at heart. His Tribunal Augment is a band-aid fix, and it takes up a mod slot that could have been used for something else. Having teammates contribute to buffs innately should be standard, but I digress. Like I said earlier, Harrow is heavily dependent on weapons to get stuff done. While this is nice for someone who likes to stick and move, I find it irritating as the difficulty ramps up. Since his abilities don't deal any damage on their own, you are required to treat the game like a high-stakes aim trainer. This is pretty fun, but one miss can end up in a dirt nap. Other frames usually bring some offensive power through their abilities that deal direct damage. While Harrow doesn't have that, he does give the team some pretty sick buffs, and has amazing shield gating. While the run was a bit challenging past level 6000, I made him work. Definitely have a coordinated team if you want to get him running to level cap. Like my Necros Prime run, I know this run is not very clean, but I think there's beauty in that. Having perfect runs and showing them off doesn't teach as well. They look cool in edits, but nothing else. I believe showing my mistakes will teach others a bit better. As always, thank you for watching, and happy farming.